the end too. Oh.
Mm-hmm. We're live.
We're live. Sorry. Good morning, everyone. We're live. It's just one of those Mondays, and I've actually already been to the dentist and everything today. I hope everybody had a nice weekend. It is actually warming up and starting to feel a little bit like summer, which is what we're talking about today. And I don't know about anybody else, but for me, summer is magic. I just feel like, and I'm going to use, Oprah has this great quote. She says, summer has a flavor like no other, always fresh and simmered in sunshine. And I don't know whether that's because I've spent most of my career as a teacher, so I still, love that whole school's out for summer thing or not, but I do love summer. But today we're going to talk about what we did when we were teens as in the summer, and then also what our teens have done. So I guess I'll start. I was one of those 10 for 2 people. I spent 10 months of the year living for 2 months of the summer when I would go away to summer camp. And I would literally take my big, heavy trunk and stuff everything in there that I needed for 8 weeks. And I was off. And there was actually one person from here that went to camp with me, but I didn't really know her until I met her at camp. And all my people were from all over the place. And it was just such a formative experience for me. And I loved it. And I actually went back and worked there even after I was a teen, et cetera, et cetera. So that was my teen summer. Jessica, how about you?
And the unmute button, there we go. My parents were pretty big believers in the whole, structured summer stuff. So, as soon as I was old enough to go to those camps, I'd start doing camp. And then I think that kind of stopped around 16 when I started working at Arby's. So that was a big chunk of my my summers. And I don't know. I mean, if I had it to my own devices, it would just be nothing but video games and pools. And I don't really have a summer break anymore, but that's probably what I'm going to be doing my summer. So I will pass it to Kamara.
Good morning. Thank you. For my summers, I worked, which I loved because I love to earn my own money. Somehow it made me feel grown. I hung out with my friends, which was different for me. I was very studious and I had a strict household, so I didn't hang out as much as I would want to during the school year. So I got to hang out whenever I wanted to, as long as I came in by curfew. And I read whatever I wanted to read. I'm a bibliophile and I love to read, and I didn't have to, there wasn't a teacher telling me what to read. So it was heaven for me. I got money, books, and friends. Since we're going across, I'm going to send it over to Sharon.
Kamira, we could have hung out with each other because I love to do those exact things too. I started working as soon as I could. I turned 14 at the beginning of August, and that was the minimum age at the time. And I wanted to work for that month before school began because I wanted to earn that little bit of money. So I got a job even for that month, and then I stopped. And then I was kind of sad the next summer or two. It was hard for teenagers to get a job because the economy was so bad. Now we have the opposite where our teenagers can get so many jobs right now, but we'll get to that later. But I was sad that I couldn't get a job those 2 summers. But I did get to hang out with friends, especially when I was able to drive myself. It was so much freedom because I didn't live in a place where I could walk to see my friends. So I needed to have the car, and just like hanging out on those summer nights, doing nothing, and, staying out. You wouldn't come in a minute before curfew because you wouldn't want to waste any of that time with your friends. And yeah, it was a great time. I'm going to go down to Emily.
Before Emily interjects, if there's anybody who's listening and you want to share what you did during your summer as a teen, we'd love to hear. Okay. All right. Go ahead, Emily. Sorry for interrupting.
One of my favorite summers was doing a program where I got to go to a college for, I think, 6 weeks and do an intensive study thing, but it was really just like practicing for college. Virginia has this great governor school program, so you can really concentrate on something and go live on a campus, and that was super fun. And then I waitressed in the summers, and we would also always go to Tennessee and hang out with my grandparents and my cousins, which I loved so much because I don't have siblings, so getting to hang out with my cousins was extra special. Yeah, I love summer. I still love for summer, and anyone involved that I'm involved with now with different projects and volunteering things will know that I'm kind of like, oh no, summer is summer. Like I'm all yours during the school year, but summer is summer. So I wonder how that will be when I don't have kids. I'm not a teacher like Jody, but I've been on the kids schedule. So it'd be interesting to see what happens when the kids are all grown, like how that calendar continues to feel, if you still feel like you get summer break when you're an empty nester. I'll send it to Mindy.
Which is perfect because I am an empty nester. And can I tell you, Emily, it's still summer is still summer. I think, everyone I look forward to Memorial Day. It's still that feeling of, sandals and bare feet. And as we were talking, late days and freedom, late days, being late. And I think for me, as a teen, I worked. I did everything from a mother's helper in 8th grade through, camp counselors and waitressing. And summers were certainly work for me all the time. But it was that feeling of, as Sharon said, late nights, hanging out with your friends. And the feeling, to me, summer is Sundays when you're in school. Sundays are not, oh no, school tomorrow, what homework hasn't been done, what needs to be, it's that freedom of, oh, it's Sunday, but tomorrow's just Monday. So that's, and I think I still get that feeling, like, even though we all work, it's like, oh, July, that's right, I still have to work. Like my head, after all these years, still goes to, wait, we're working on Monday, Friday? We're working in the summer on Friday? So it just never goes away, kids or no kids. And I love it. Love summer. Love the long days and the warm evenings. So I'm pumped. I'm really looking forward to it. Eka, I know you're an empty nester too. Am I correct in my feeling?
Yes, you are. Yeah. I'm like that too. Summer it just feels different. Like, Jody started off with her quote from Oprah. Absolutely. As a kid, there were 4 of us, and my mother was a single mom. And so basically it was like the 4 of us kind of fending for ourselves all day. And we had bikes, and we just rode our bikes wherever. We would go to the pool, and we would stay all day at the pool without sunscreen on because we didn't know better. And then when I was old enough, I started working. And then one summer where I was unbelievably belligerent and annoying as a teenager, my mother didn't know what to do with me. So she called her brother, and she sent my sister and I to Spain to spend the summer in Spain because she didn't know what to do with us. And it was probably the best thing for all of us that I not be at that house. So that was one fantastic summer in Spain with my cousins. So yeah, then we'll go around and we'll see how much structure I gave to my kids instead. So I'm going to send it over to Jen.
Thanks, Eka. Sorry, I was tardy to the party this morning, but this is one of my favorite topics because I do love summer. And actually, I think my favorite thing about summer is it's still ingrained in me that there's something called summer reading, which is reading for pleasure. I was that kid who couldn't wait to go to the library the very day they opened up the summer reading program. And I wanted every sticker that you could get for reading books because it was just such a, yeah, Eka, I see it. I see you. I acknowledge the light in you that is the light in me. To me, it's like there's nothing better than reading because you want to read and not because you have to take a test on it or write a paper on it. Sorry, Jody. Much as I'd love to write a paper on the Tale of Two Cities, I've never read it. That's my dirty secret. But maybe this summer I will, because now I like reading just for reading. And so it's weird because I could read for pleasure all year long. There's nothing stopping me. But there's something that happens. Summertime comes, we go to our favorite vacation place. We go to our favorite independent bookstore called Hickory Stick in Washington, Connecticut. It is the best bookstore ever in the world. And I walk in there, that is my happy place. And I like load up my arms and I'm like, all set. I'm going to go sit by the dock and read, and it doesn't matter what else is going on in my life. That to me is summer. So there's a lot of other great things I could talk about summer. I do remember I did have to work in the summers. My mom, I didn't have a car, so she drove. Like, there was a very short radius of where I could work, so I had to be able to walk there. But I remember one summer we were driving somewhere, and she pulled into the driveway of the local country club and said, "Hop on in, they're taking applications." And I was like, "Oh, I guess I'm getting a job this summer." So that was my introduction to the world of work. But it was fun because there were people my age working there. So I actually have fond memories of that too. That is all from me. I'm going to kick it upstairs to who is next? Who hasn't gone yet? Maybe Kamira, have you gone yet?
Yeah. No, I think we've all done this round. So
okay.
We're gonna now kind of shift over, and I love that we're also, it just makes me happy that everybody else is as happy as I am about summer. And Jen, you have 2 kids who can help you through Tale of Two Cities if you decided to pick it up this weekend. So
if they actually read it, I don't know. I don't want to out them, but I'm not sure they actually read it.
Anyway, what was I going to say? So now we're going to kind of shift gears and talk about what we are going to do, or what our teens are doing, and what our kids are doing. And some of us, our kids are a little bit older, et cetera. But I think Eka even touched at it. We did one thing, but do we have the same approach with our kids, or how are we managing this and everything? And I will say again, my kids did go to camp. It was actually a little bit harder to persuade my boys because they were really, and I think when I was growing up, I didn't even know that there were other options. But by the time my kids were in the teens, there were so many more, it seemed, maybe I just had my head in the sand. There were so many more options and choices and, sports and this and things that they want to do. So it was a little bit hard, but they ultimately, 2 of them really fell into the same kind of camp pattern that we did. And then, I actually ended up working at a summer camp where my kids went, which I'm not sure if I recommend that. I spent most of my 40s working at a camp, and my friends would always say, "Oh my gosh, that's so fun." I'm like, it's really not. Like, I'm in charge of all these teenagers who all they want to do is, break the rules. So, but it was something. But one of my kids did camp, but then it wasn't as much of a fit for her. So we did kind of have to look and see other things. And she found some, she worked at a camp as a counselor. She actually went by herself and did like a language immersion program one summer. And it was just, I think for me as a mom, it was so amazing to see kind of what opportunities there are out there now that I had no idea about. But, I guess for us, it was just, we wanted to keep them busy. We wanted them to be able to have, the fun, but some kind of structure. And as they got older, they were working, they weren't, they were making a penny an hour as camp counselors, but it was still very rewarding for them. So, all right. We'll go backwards this way. Jen, how about you? When your girls were not reading Tale of Two Cities, what did they do in the summer when they were teens?
So my kids, they did a lot of odd jobs and babysitting and dog sitting. And we were those people who, we really prize our family vacations, and we would carve out 2 weeks, usually in the middle of the summer, to go to our vacation place. And that kind of made it hard for them to commit to anything longer term, like, being a counselor at a sleepaway camp, or even having like a more regular job. So we were okay with them just sort of piecing it together. And I also encouraged them to do something for fun, like some kind of enrichment that was just for fun, like take a painting class or a sewing class, or, something that you wouldn't really feel like you had the bandwidth to do during your school year, because I felt like they worked really, really hard in school. One of my kids told me the other day, she goes, "I never had a week in college that was as hard as a day in my high school," which really floored me. But it's different. High school, they are on all day long, every subject, every social interaction. It is full on. So I didn't mind just sort of pulling the plug on summer and saying, you need to earn whatever money you want to do fun things. But beyond that, I didn't have a requirement about how much time they had to spend working. There'll be a whole lifetime for them to work 40 hours a week and more. So I'm pretty laid back about that. Eka, how about you?
So with my kids is one of the things I try to do a lot is listen in on what other people are parenting and then kind of pick and choose what works for me. And so one of the things I had heard were people would say like, all my kid wants to do all day is play video games and they don't want to work and I can't get them out of the house. And I was like, okay, not happening at my place. So there was downtime, but there still had to pick something to do weekly or daily, whatever. So both of my girls had their own preferred activities. And so they did it, like one daughter was a swimmer. And so she swam every morning. What time was it, Mindy? 5:30 on summer? I think she swam every morning at 5:30. And she got up and at first she rode her bike and sometimes we drive her, then she drove herself when she was older. But they had to swim and then she would come home and nap and then she had a job. And so she still had free time and but I didn't want them being slugs on the couch. My other daughter was a dancer and we were fortunate enough to be able to send her out for these summer intensives all over the country. And so she went and she danced. And then when she came home, she would pick up a job. So there was downtime, but and sometimes I thought, did I push them? But no, this is what they wanted to do. They had weekends off, or then, there was always that break at the end. We went on family vacation, but I just was really afraid of them just hanging out and not doing anything, which I know is really easy to do because I personally can do it myself. I can start in this slippery slope where you're just like, well, I'm just going to do this and I'm not going to really, I'll stay. And then next thing you know, it's a week is gone and you haven't showered and you've read all the Harry Potter books. Oh, wait, no, never mind. I'm going to send it to Mindy.
I found the hardest age was that 13, 14, where it's really hard for them to get a job. They don't want to do camp so much. My kids were never campers, but there just wasn't a lot for our kids to do. I found that a really hard age. So I loved Eka when our kids swam. Eka and I both had kids that swam. And they were tired by the end of the day. My boys all worked too, but Eka, did you? I mean, you just knew if they had to get up and be in that pool by 5:30, one was down early, which was good, wasn't out late. But my kids worked, and they were sports kids, so they also had their sports practices. I do remember probably one of the best experiences was one of my boys was a camp counselor, a day camp counselor, and they did a field trip to, I think, Cedar Point here in Ohio. And him having to be responsible for maybe, I don't know what's in a group, 6, 7 kids, it was the best experience. I remember him saying, okay, so I had one kid, okay, you wait here at this, you wait right here, don't move, and trying to get the other one to come here, and one kid was kicking the fence. He had to tell him 6 times not to kick the fence, and it was welcome to parenthood. It was he came home so stressed that day, and I just thought, best experience in the world, to have to be responsible for someone else. So I'm a huge proponent of summer jobs. Again, kind of boring, but that's what my kids did. They worked. They certainly went out with their friends and had downtime. But our summer was working. Boy, that's sound like an ogre. I mean, I know we had fun, but that was our summer. So Emily, pick it up from here because it's a depressing summer, it sounds like.
Well, my 18-year-old has not ended up having a real summer job yet, which feels unfortunate. Like he would like to, and we would like him to, and we're open to it, but because last year was COVID summer, and the prior summers he had in our neighborhood, summer school is really like more of a norm and less of a just some people take summer school, but like pretty much because the way football works, you're here during the first 6 weeks of the summer. And so most people just go ahead and take summer school as part of that. Like our school day is a little, I don't know, odd compared to what I grew up with. I don't know what you guys have in Cleveland and Georgia, but like they only have 6 classes, not 7 classes. So if you play a sport, then that means you really only have 5 classes. And so a lot of kids needed those summer school classes to kind of get everything in. So that was a big shock for us moving out west. And then we always want to get time to go back east and visit family. So that was kind of the summer. So last summer, I had started volunteering at a food bank, And so basically our older son did that with us over the summer because of COVID. And then this summer, because we're all vaccinated and we have a lot of travel east and hosting people here from the East Coast, there's really not a chunk of time that he could get a job. Like there's no way he could ask for that much time off. So I think he'll be heading back to the food bank with me. And hopefully next year will be the summer of the job. And then my 14-year-olds, again, I think they're just going to be really busy with cousins and old friends and grandparents this summer. But there are a couple of little local shops that the younger teens will often try to get jobs at. There's like a frozen yogurt place and a pharmacy with a ice cream counter. And they've both gone and asked about jobs at those places, but they're not really hiring yet because their business hasn't ramped back up because school is not really fully back in session. And of course, summer is coming. So that's where we've been. I will send it to Sharon.
Yeah, I'm also like Emily, I'm super excited about vaccines because I have a 15, 13, and almost 11-year-old. So the older two were able to get their first shots last week. So by the middle of June, they will be, they'll have their full immunity. And it's super exciting because, my 13-year-old has been wanting to babysit for so long and nobody was going out during COVID. She did her Red Cross thing like 2 years ago. Nobody was going out. And then, we didn't want her mixing with all these people. So she's going to be able to put herself out as a babysitter. She's doing a volunteer camp counseling thing at this nature camp around the corner from us so she can walk there. And then my 15-year-old has his first job. He's going to work at the town pool, which wasn't even really open last year. I don't think it was open at all. But so it's exciting because it gives them that chance to do those things that we think of as normal summer things. And we are also going to try to see grandparents and cousins that we haven't seen in a year and a half. So a lot on the table. And even though I agree with you, Mindy, that younger teenage is hard, when they do feel they're too old for camps at like 13 or so. So it can be tough to fill those days, but I'm hoping that the little bit of odd job things like the babysitting, like you mentioned, Jen, will fill some of that time. And then hopefully the little one won't feel like she's alone at home too much either. That's going to be weird without their brother there a lot of days because of work. So we'll see how it goes. All right, Kamira.
One more thing I wanted to add that
Yeah.
our kids did, at least one of our kids did during the summer, is they use that time to learn to drive. So I know you have
Yes.
those. So if you're able to get into a driving school over the summer and they can do it, there's way more time, like, because it's later for them to
It's
do the
true.
practicing. So that was actually a pretty good use of summertime, was learning to drive.
Yeah, I do have a permitted kid who's done very little driving so far because I think in order to take the step from the driving through the cemetery into the real roads, we need that behind the wheel instructions. So this summer should be time for that. Yeah. So Kamira, I'll pass it to you.
Okay. Well, as you know, I have two sets of kids, older and then currently. The older ones their summers were more like mine. They worked, they did more of what they liked to do, maybe explored some interests, maybe took a class, but it mirrored mine more. The younger one, his summer, and all of them had to have some structure because they were in New York City, so they couldn't really just be on their own with bicycles in New York City. So they were camp counselors at the Y, things like that. The younger one, I took it as an opportunity for him to go really deep into an interest or to explore something because he's kind of quirky. So all of his interests weren't really met at school. They didn't have clubs kinds of things like, but there were camps for them. So he really liked summer because he got to, his various tribes. That's when he found his tribes during these summer camps and whatnot. This year, he's finishing his junior year of high school. This year, he said, he just came to me, I think it was last week. and said he was nominated for some academic camps. There's one he really liked, and but it interferes with, he is going to be the director of the student-run musical, and they start working on that in the summer. So he can't go to any camp that overlaps with that, because he has been waiting his entire high school career to be musical director of this. So then he came to me and he said, you know, I think I just want to work, because like the other teens, he hasn't had a regular clock-in job. He does have a business, a really good business. He earns quite a bit. Everybody in the neighborhood and other people know to hire him for, you know, mowing lawns, tutoring their children, pet walking, all that stuff. So he earns income, but he doesn't have to maintain a schedule. He's never had that kind of responsibility. And he said he wanted to work in a bookstore. So he's been looking up independent bookstores. He's a reader also, so he wants to be surrounded by it. He can learn the business. And it's kind of a break for him. I realized after the fact that he's self-managing. It's kind of self-care, that the pandemic was stressful. Junior year is a lot of stress. He's going into senior year, which is a lot of stress. And he's self-managing and self-care and saying, let me pause for a bit. So that's what we'll be doing. Hopefully we'll be able to, I'm hoping that maybe some colleges will open up for visits. They haven't yet, but I'd love to do that. So especially since a lot of the schools he wants to visit are near relatives whom we haven't seen in a year and a half. So we get to first. So I'm looking forward to that. We won't have we usually take a couple of weeks off the beginning of the summer and a couple of weeks off at the end of the summer, so that the kids have actually relaxed before school starts again. And then we'll go somewhere or staycay. Probably not going to do that this year, but that's okay. We'll still have fun. I'm going to send it over to Jessica.
All right. Well, again, I don't have children, so I don't necessarily have what I've made them do. So I've been thinking a lot, like, you know, when I do have kids, kind of caught between like the structured, like you're going to camp, you're getting a job, and also like I'm 26 and I'm still that teenager that wants to sit on the couch and play video games 24/7. I am all of your worst nightmare, but no, but I mean, also just my age, I know so many people that are like, because of all those video games, are going into like video game design, or they're artists, or they're writers and all this stuff. So like, even the unstructured video game time, I think, can still lead to some really good stuff. So I don't know, I guess I get that structure is important. So when I have those kids, I probably will try to find some sort of structured something for the summers. But I don't know, the free time, the video games, the books, the TV, I think it all still can have its use. Okay, to Jody.
Yes, Jessica, I think of course it can. So, and this is somebody who, when I walk into my house, especially in the summer, and if I, you know, like the minute school is out, and if it was sunny and bright outside, I would look at them and say, why are you sitting inside? Why aren't you outside doing something? I get like twitchy being inside in like on a nice day. And I think that was one of my favorite things, like about, you know, some of the summer camp things, that they were they were screen free. You had to like turn your stuff in when you walked in, and, you know, so, but, and also to, I think it was Kamira and Sharon's point, you know, for these, you know, such a hard age, the 13 and 14-year-olds, which is why I think, you know, having this, you know, any kind of like experiences are good. And, but thinking about like these friends that you make. Oh, I know. It was Kamira, you were saying like how your son made his friends, you know, outside in his summer things. And I think for, you know, my kids too, I feel like their besties are still their camp people, like during this year. And finally, like this summer, I don't think it's going to matter what anybody does, because it's just going to feel so much better than last summer, that it's going to be a win no matter what, you know? And I think that's why we're even more excited. You know, it really does feel like, you know, going to the pool for the afternoon is going to be so exciting, because you couldn't do it before. Whereas in the past, it was like, the pool again. You know, I think this is just going to be one of those great, you know, just upbeat, hopefully, you know, opportunities where even something little that somebody may have complained about, even though our teens never complain, is just going to feel, you know, like a very fun, you know, experience. So anyway, I don't know if anybody else has anything else to add, but that's it. And I'm looking forward to it. Memorial Day is kind of late this year, isn't it, guys? We got another whole weekend before we get there, but I may start early. So already planted, as I said before, and so we'll see. All right. So next week we'll be back talking about something else, and thanks so much for joining us. All right. Take care, everybody. Bye.